Gun History and the Gun Control Problem by Elias Aparicio-Gutierrez. There is a long and complicated history with guns because they have been used by people who protect our country and people who commit crimes. The reality of gun control laws is that they do not help us from the people who want to hurt us. Homicides have been a major problem for decades, and most of them have used firearms. The idea of gun control is not bad. However, how the laws are executed make them worthless. Beginning of guns. The first gun ever was the hand cannon, and it's been around since 1364, which would have also been loaded through the muzzle with gunpowder and whatever the projectile had been was used. The Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Duels. Famous in America by 1804, first American duel was between Edward Doty and Edward Leicester in 1621 with swords as their weapons. A famous duel in America was between Aaron Burr and Alexander Hamilton, where Aaron Burr had done a severe blow to Hamilton, in which Hamilton died from. Duels were mostly fought with firearms, and by the Civil War, duels are no longer used. Famous guns used in wars. In the Civil War, notable guns were the Springfield Model 1861 rifle, Henry repeating rifle, and the Lamont pistol. Here are three images with each gun. Here's an image with each gun. The Korean War. Korean War weapons were M2 carbine and M1 Garand. Here are they. So, what is gun control? Gun control are the laws that regulate who legally can own, carry a gun, including when and where, and what they are allowed to use it for. How gun control helps. The country would be in danger if everyone, no matter the age or criminal record of a person, could get a gun legally. A notable act, and one that everyone necessarily knows, is the Gun Control Act of 1968, which specifically prohibits non-sporting guns, people under the age of 21 years old, felons, and the mentally ill to be a holder. It also required for guns to have a serial number. The Brady Handgun Violence Protection Act of 1993 then also required background checks for all licensed sellers. The ineffectiveness of gun control. Criminals do not obtain their guns legally, so they do not have to be worried to be rejected for a gun license or guns from licensed sellers. Normal citizens are also unable to protect themselves from criminals with guns if the citizens are unable to obtain a permit themselves. Homicides. The Criminal Council of Justice, or the CCJ, accounted for about 820,000 homicides in 1995 alone. The U.S. Department of Justice, or the DOJ, traced about 6% of gun crimes in 1995 to be homicides. The DOJ also traced about 72% of crimes to weapon offenses, 5% to drug offenses, 2% to burglary, 2% to robbery, and 2% to other unrelated crimes. Quotes of famous people who have supported gun control. One by Elias Spitzer. Yes, people pull the trigger, but guns are the instrument of death. Gun control is necessary, and delay means more death and horror. And another quote by Gene Kennedy Smith is, "We need more strong gun control laws. How can people even ask a question about it? Gun control is so important." End quote. Quotes of famous people who have condemned gun control. So JFK, start quote, "I don't think we need more gun control laws." End quote. Mark Meadows once said, "Gun control is not the answer. The best and most effective path forward, I believe, is one that safeguards our schools from becoming soft targets." End quote. And the recently deceased voice actor James Earl Jones once said, "The world is filled with violence because criminals carry guns. We decent, law-abiding citizens should also have guns. Otherwise, they will win and the decent people will lose." End quote. How often do you think you hear about gun violence in the recent media compared to when you were younger?
When I was younger, of course, I'm 65, so it was rare to hear about it on the news, and now it's if you track gun crime cases through anybody can do it. You can look at Wichita crime stats. You'll see there are probably I would be guessing there are probably 15 to 20 incidences of gun violence a day in the city of Wichita, easily.
What do you think the main problem is with gun control now?
It's not the lack of gun control that's the problem. I think it's we as a society as a whole have relegated to where I was a child, and not to condone it, but it was more fisticuffs. I mean, you had a problem with another person, it would usually go to where, we would use our fist and be like a boxing match. Now our tempers go to where we're grabbing a weapon. So that escalation of violence is something that we could never legislate. A great example is the city of Chicago. They have the most stringent gun laws in the United States, yet have the most abhorrent crime rate. So the criminals are not following the laws. That's why they're criminals. So some people acquiesce. There have been research studies that have shown that if you arm average citizens, the crime rate actually goes down. It's not the other way around. So there are 2 Florida cities that it is a law that their citizens have to carry a weapon on them for protection. And the crime rate has gone almost to zero in those cities.
The idea of gun control is not bad. However, how the laws are executed make them worthless. Criminals have been able to hurt anyone for any reason if they believe there is enough justification. As such, we need protection of our own, either it be a gun or another weapon. A way that we could do this as a country is by having a class like driver's ed, so that after we turned 21 years old, we are educated on guns, including safety, violence, and all what you should do as a gun owner and should not do.